Good night of Shabbos, everybody. We are now doing Shabbos' Daf, which is Daf. We are holding on Daf Yud Ches, Amid Beis, 118b2 in your art scroll. The left-hand column at the beginning, Amid of Shimon ben Lakish. We are continuing with discussing Hallel that we say during the Haggadah. Zakt the Gemara, Amid of Shimon ben Lakish. My diksiv, Moishidi Akeres Habayis. Why is it written he transforms the foundation of the house? Amru Knesset Yisrael Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Knesset Yisrael, the assembly of Israel, said before the Rebbeinu Shalom, Rebbeinu Shalom, master of the world, Samuni Banecha Bechuldazu. Your children have made me like this weasel, Hador Be'ikre Batim, that dwells in the foundation of the houses, like termites. Dora Shroba. My diksiv, Ahafti ki yishma Hashem. What does it mean? I love when Hashem hears my voice. Amr Knesset Yisrael, Rebbeinu Shloim. Emes ani ahuvu lefanecha. When am I beloved before you? Bizman shetishma kol tachanunai. When you listen to the voice of my supplications. Daloisi v'liyo ishia. I became poor and he saved me. Amr Knesset Yisrael lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu Shloim. Apapi. Shadala ani b'mitzvahs, even though I'm poor in mitzvahs, l'chani, I am yours. V'li noel ishia, and it is fitting for you to save me. In other words, the Knesset Yisrael was saying that Klal Yisrael is doing averis like the weasels, right? And that in kol zeh, that what do you call it? We're coming along and saying, even though we're like weasels, that we're low on the mitzvah totem, that we're not keeping the Torah the way we should, nonetheless, HaKadosh Baruch Hu listen to us, our tefillahs, and come and what do you call it, even though we are poor in mitzvahs, li noelo yishiyat, we are yours, and it's fitting for you to come and save us. Amar Rav Kahana, Kishachol Rabbi Yishmael b'Rebbe Yossi, when Yishmael the son of Yossi fell sick, Rebbe sent him a message. Amru lanu shneim shloisha devarim. Tell us two or three things. Shamarti lanu mishum avicha, that you have received in the name of your father. And this is important because today too this happens, that as the older generation that from the Holocaust, or those who still remember from before the Holocaust and what it was like, the newer generation always says to them, tell us what it was like. What were the Friedik and Hugin traditions, etc. Sholach Loi, Rabbi Yishmael sent back to him. Kach Amar Abba, so said my father. My diksiv, Hallelujah Hashem, Kol Goyim, praise Hashem, all the nations. Umas Olam, my Abditu. What are the Umas Olam doing over here? It's Klal Yisrael's obligation to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Achikama, Hallelujah Hashem, Kol Goyim, Agvurois v'neflois da'avi ba'adayu. Praise Hashem, all nations, for the mighty and wonderful deeds that He does for them. Kol shekain anu, so much more us. The Gover Aleinu Chazdai, for His kindness overwhelms us. Va'oid, and He also said, Asida Mitzrayim shetavi doris the Mashiach. In the future, Mitzrayim will bring a gift to Mashiach. Kisabur ein mekabla mehem, but he will be thinking that he should not accept it from them. Amalai HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mashiach, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu will tell Mashiach, Kabel mehem, accept from them, Achsanya also levonai b'Mitzrayim, for they made a lodging place for my children in Mitzrayim. And this is one of the anomalies. Even though we were enslaved by Mitzrayim, nonetheless they took us in by Yaakov and the sons, by the Rov, and we never forget that, and that is why a Mitzri is Yovoi B'Kal Hashem, a Mitzri is allowed into the nation in the third generation. By the third generation, a Mitzri is allowed into the nation. Miyad Yeyosu Chashmanim Mini Mitzrayim. Immediately gifts will be brought from Egypt. Nisa Kush Kal B'Chaymer Ba'atzma. As a result, Kush would take up a Kal B'Chaymer regarding itself. Uma halolu shavdu behen. Now, if the Mitzri who would slave the Klal Yisrael, Kach are treated like this, that their gifts are ultimately accepted. Ani shaloi mishpati behen. I who did not enslave them, like kol shekain, my gift should certainly be accepted. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but the Holy One, blessed be His name, will say to Mashiach, Kabomem, except from them as well. Miyad Kush Toritz Yodav Lekim. Kush shall hasten its hands to Hashem. 118b3. Nosa Malchus Reini Arosha Kalvachem Matzah. Then the wicked Roman Empire is going to make a Kalvachem onto itself. Now, since Mitzrayim and Cush are not brothers to Klal Yisrael, Kach the Matanas were accepted. Anu Shem Achayim. We who are brothers because we come from Esav. Right, Kol Shekay. Amalaya Kadosh Baruch Hu Gabriel. Kadosh Baruch will then say to the Malach Gabriel, Ga'ar Chayis Kana. Rebuke the bird, the beast, Kana Adas Abirim. Ga'ar Chayis the Kana Le'eda. Rebuke the beast and embrace the Knesset Yisrael. He's saying, even though Yaakov and Esav are brothers, go ahead and rebuke Esav. The Ksiv, Dabar Acher, Ga'or Chayis Konan Shadora Ben HaKonan. Rebuke the beast of the reeds who dwells among the reeds. The boar of the forest ravages it, and the crawler in the field feeds on it. And this is already, the boar of the field is Rome, as it was from the Nevuas of Daniel. Amar Rab Chia bar Abba, Amar Rab Yochanan, Ga'or b'chaya, rebuke the beast, Shekol Maaseh, and Nechtovim b'kum l'sechad, because all its deeds are written with one and the same quill. In other words, everything will be ruled against it when Klal Yisrael comes with Gzar Din against Rome. Because Rome looked to certainly destroy us in a way that was they dispersed us to all four corners of the world to try to assimilate them first into their paganism and later to Catholicism. And so we have a lot to contend with that. Adas abirim ba'aglei amin. The Tehillim continues, rebuke the beast, the assembly of the valiant among the calves of nations. Sheshachtu abirim ka'agolim she'ein lehem balan. Rebuke the beast who slaughtered the valiant ones, Klal Yisrael, like calves who have no owners. Nisratzu b'ratzei kaseh, who opened its hand for bribes of money. Sheploishim yod the kabul moment, stretch its hand out to accept money bribes. They ain't oisin with Sain Balam, but do not do the wills of their owners. That means it was illusion that Rome never fulfilled its promises, even when we bribed them. Ultimately, it didn't do us any good. Pizer Amin Kiravos Yechvotzum, he scattered the nations that desired Ki'arvos, Mi Goram Lohem Yisol Sheyapazim Lebein Unas Olam, who caused the word the Klal Yisrael to be scattered, to become the wandering Jews among the nations of the world. The friendship that Klal Yisrael desired to have with Rome, because who invited Rome into Eretz Yisrael? It was the Hashmonai kings themselves who invited the enemy directly ourselves into our own homes. V'oid shalach loin, and Yishmael also sent to Rebbe, Shloish Shemeis Rishishim Chamisha Shivokim, the Krak Godel Shaloimi. There are 365 marketplaces in the metropolitans of Rome. And each one contains 365 towers. And each one has 365 steps. And each and every step has on it enough food to sustain the entire world. That Rome, in its greatness, was so great that it was plentiful of food, etc. Amar Rebbe Shimon, should we say Amar Rebbe Shimon, the Rebbe. And some say it was Rabbi Yishmael, but Rabbi Yosef to Rebbe. Hani Laman, who should all this food be for? The answer to you and your Talmid and your colleagues and your colleagues' colleagues, all the people who are learning Torah. All the people are learning Torah. Shnema, Sachro, that men of Kodesh Hashem, lo ye'otzim lo yechsim bi, ki Her merchandise and prostitute wages will one day become holy to Hashem. It shall not be stored nor treasured. It shall be for those who sit before Hashem. My lo yeyotze. What does it mean? It will not be stored. Tani Reb Yosef. Lo yeyotze. It shall not be stored. Zeh beis oitze. This means the granary, which has produce of grain, wine, and oil in it. V'lo yechosein, in your treasured zeh beis geniza. That's the gold and silver where that's stored. My kili Yosef lefnei Hashem, but only for those who sit before Hashem. Amar Rabbi Elazar. So said Rabbi Elazar. And we are now on Shabbos' daf Kuf Yud Tes Amud Aleph. Those who knows his chaver's place in the yeshiva. It means that those who know the mokim kavua, where everybody sits, or as the Rashbam says, the first Rashbam, he knows to say, this is this guy's place. This is this guy's place. And the reason that he knows that this is his chaver's place is because his chaver is always found there. Every day he's found in yeshiva. Those who greet their colleagues in the academy who are mentioned and say hello in the morning. What does it mean by, and for one who covers the ancient, in that pasuk over there, in the pasuk of the Yoshim Lefnei Hashem, Yehei Sachel Echel Sabo Ulam Mechasek Osik. So what does it mean? Zeh Mechasek Devarim Shekisa Asik Yomi. This refers to the concealed, who conceals the things that the Ancient of Days concealed. Okay, the Hashem is called the Ancient of Days, the Eternal One. In Sefer Daniel, Maninu, what is these things that Hashem concealed? Sisrei Torah, the secrets of the Torah, that is the Maisa Merkava, Yecheskel's vision of the chariot flying through the sky with the seraphim and the Vaifanim, the seraphim and the malachim screaming Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzavakes, Malach Haaretz Kevoda. In other words, the Kabbalah side of things. The Ikadi Amri. And others say, this refers to one who reveals the things that the Ancient of Days concealed. The Maninu Tamei Torah, the explanations of Torah, and that, of course, is the Gemara. The Gemara and everything that has come from it, all the great Tupulei Torah. A song to David. Sing to the one that others conquer and he rejoices. Come and see that the characteristic of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not like the characteristics of people. People, what other people can him, and therefore he becomes sad and he becomes depressed. But regarding Kadosh Baruch Hu, others capture him and he rejoices. And he said to he who would destroy them, had not Moshe, chosen one, stood in the breach before him. And this could also mean who defeat HaKadosh Baruch Hu in halacha, like the famous case in Baba Metzia, in the machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Eliezer brought all the proofs in the world that the oven is tar, and they didn't agree with him, and he said that the bucks move, that the water flowed backwards, that the walls of the Beis Hamikdash gave in, and they all did it. And finally he cried up to Shemayim, and Shemayim called out in a basco and said, why are you starting up with my son Eliezer, who's right always? Upon this, Amar Rabbi Yeshua Rabbi Yeshua got up and pointed to heaven and said, the Torah is not in heaven. In your Torah it's written, after the majority we shall follow. And later on, a Tana came and banged to Eliyahu Hanavi, and he asked Eliyahu Hanavi, what was HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing through this? And Eliyahu Hanavi said And the Rebbeinu Shalom was laughing and said, my children have defeated me, my children have defeated me. Amar Rav Kahana Mishum Rabbi Shmuel B'Rav Yosi, Amar Rav Shimon Ben Lakish Mishum Rabbi Shua Nesiya, Mai Diksiv B'Yidei Odom B'Takas Kafeyem, and there were human hands under their wings. This is again in the Maisa Merkava, in the divine chariot that Cheskel saw in his vision. What does it mean that there were human hands? There were human hands under their wings. Yodai Ksiv, it's written Yodai, his hand is actually written. Zeh Yodai Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This refers to the hand of the Holy One. Sheperusha Tachas Kanfei HaChayos, which is spread out under the wings of the Chayos. And this is one of the 10 distinct categories of the angels. Kidei lekabel bali tshuva miyad midas adin. In order to receive the bali tshuva, dependence from and save them from the midas adin. Amar Rabbi Yehuda ben Shmuel, kol kesav v'zav shabayim Yosef l'fnei ve'avilu Mitzrayim. Blessed God and all the silver and gold in the world and brought it to Mitzrayim. Shenema b'yilakit Yosef is kol kesav ad nimtzah. I only know this is from the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, all who were coming to Mitzrayim to eat during the 7 years, the 700 years. Bishar Artzis Menagim. How do I know all other lands? All the people of the earth came to Mitzrayim to buy provisions. 119:8-2. When Klal Yisrael went up from Mitzrayim, they took all this money with them. And they emptied Mitzrayim. It teaches us that Mitzrayim, they made Mitzrayim similar to a trap, a Mitzuda that has no grain. Okay, in other words, it's a trap to trap birds. If no grain is placed in the net, no birds will be attracted to it and the trap will remain empty. And if you look at it, we know historically that Egypt was the great, great civilization, and then from 1 minute to the next it disappeared. There was no understanding, we have no clarity as to how it disappeared. Of course, we have clarity, because with Yetzias Mitzrayim, with the Makkos, the greatness of Egypt from that moment on completely disappeared from its heights. It completely dropped off the map to this day, in which it's really had no major impact on the world from that point on. Like a trap which has no, or the depths which has no fish. And all the money removed from Mitzrayim remained in Eretz Yisrael until the Melech Rechabiam, the son of Shlomo Melech, Baal Shikek Melech Mitzrayim, and not the Rechabiam. At that time, Shishak, the king of Mitzrayim, came and grabbed it back from Rechabiam. Shnema, Vahiba Shana Chamishis, the Melech Rechabiam, Olo Shishak Melech Mitzrayim, Al Yerushalayim. It was in the 50th Melech Rechabiam that Shishak, the Melech Mitzrayim, ascended against Yerushalayim, and he took the treasuries of Hashem's house, the treasuries of the king's house. Zerach, the king of Cush, then came and grabbed the wealth from Shishak. Also, we were told him Isaac Melech Cush, and then Asa, he was a king on Yehuda and a grandson of the Rechabiam. He went, and I'm sorry, I lost the place yet. But also, when he got to Mizrach Melech Cush, Shigre Lahad Rimoin ben Tav Rimoin, and he sent it to Had Rimoin ben Tav Rimoin. He sent it to him, okay. And so you say to protect it, to induce him. He was the king of Aram, to induce him to wage war against Basha, okay. And then and then and the Ammonim came and grabbed it from Hadrimain. Shaphat, our king came and took it from the Ammonim. And it remained and it remained in Klal Yisrael until Achaz. Ad Sancheiriv Notla Me'achaz, until Sancheiriv came and grabbed it from Achaz. Both Chizkiah and Notla Me'Sancheiriv. Chizkiah came and took it back from Sancheiriv. Boyim and Noach at Tzidkiah. It remained until Tzidkiah. Boyim Kastadim and Notla Me'Tzidkiah. The Chassidim came, the Chaldeans came and took it from Tzidkiah. Boyim Parsim and Notla Me'Chassidim. Then the Persians came from the Chassidim, and Boyim Yevonim. The Greeks came and took it from Persia, and ultimately the Romans took it back from the hands of the Greeks. And now it still remains in Rome. Okay, so now what does it really mean is who's up and who's down, right? And the idea was Egypt was up, I still took it from them, so on and so forth. And right now, Rome still dominates, though the West is tottering. Amar Rav Chama bar Chanina, Shalosh mat moiniyos hamtin Yosef b'Mitzrayim. Yosef hid 3 treasures in Mitzrayim. Achas negala l'Korach, one was revealed to Korach. Achas negala l'Antoninus ben Asverus, one was revealed to Antoninus, the son of Severus. That's obviously the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Antoninus, Va'aches Genuzel Tzadikin also Lava, and one is hidden away for the future, for the tzaddikim in the future. 119a3. Oishe Shomol Boro. The king, the Shlomo HaMelech wrote, there is a sickening evil that I've seen under the sun, riches hoarded by their owner to their misfortune. A miser. Abraham Shimon ben Lakish, Zeh Osher Shel Korach, this is the riches of Korach. Shenema, Es Kol HaYikum Hashem B'Regleihem, was sitting on their feet. And when the Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Zeh Memoinim Shel Adam She'emin Al Raglot, which stands him on his feet. Amar Rabbi Levi, Masu Shloish, Meyos, Perodos, Labonis, Choyu, Maftechose, Beis, Genozav Shel Korach. The keys to Korach's treasure houses equaled 300 white mules. The Kulan ad Aklide, the Calife, the Gilda. And all the keys and locks were made of leather. High quality lock, even though they were made of leather, which is much lighter than metal, 300 mules were still required to transport them. Again, there's 1,001 ways of learning up these Gemaras. We're going to go back. Okay. Amar Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Reb Yonason. The Dayish, Aidish, Shadach, Va'oidcha, Simen goes with the Simons. Amar Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Reb Yonason. Oidcha ki ani sani, I thank you, you have answered me, and you become my salvation. Amar David. Evem oaso aboinim hoisel rosh pina Amar Yishai. The stone the buildings despised became the cornerhouse stone, so said Yishai. In other words, David HaMelech, his youngest son, who was the one that was looked down on the most, nonetheless became the cornerstone of which became the king, David HaMelech. Me'es Hashem hoisezais amru echov. David HaMelech's brothers, who thought they would be king, they said, this emanated from Hashem, it is wondrous in our eyes. Hashem Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said this when he said that when Klal Yisrael will ultimately rejoice when David HaMelech defeats their enemies. Ana Hashem, Hoshiyana, please Hashem, save me. Amru Echov, David's brothers said this. Brothers, what they call, save us through David HaMelech. Ana Hashem Atzichana, Amar David said, please Hashem, bring me success so that he will be successful. Baruch haba b'shem Hashem, Amar Yishai. Yishai, the father, said, blessed is he who comes in the name of Hashem. And he's giving again the bracha, and he gave this bracha to Shmuel. He gave this bracha to Shmuel when Shmuel came to his city. Shmuel, we bless you from the house of Hashem. Shmuel, of course, said this right when Hashem told Shmuel to anoint David HaMelech. to which son would be anointed. El Hashem Bayor Lonu Amru Kulam. Hashem is God, he illuminates for us. All of them said, Isur Chag Ba'avoisim Am Shmuel, bind the festival offerings with cords until the corner of the altar. Shmuel said this, let us rejoice by bringing shalomins whose blood is thrown on the Mizbeach. Eli Ato V'Yedeka Amad David, you are my God and I will thank you. David HaMelech said this, he thanked Hashem for choosing him. Elekaya Rememeka Amru Kulam, may God, my God, I will exalt you. All of them said this, which means that they all accepted that David was the king, including David's brothers. We find nowhere that David's brothers did anything but support him. Tanan Hassam, we learned. Malkim Shinahagu, in a place where the minig is. And now we're on Kufyu Tes Amid Beis, where the minig is Lichtol Yichbol, to double recite the Hallel, recite each pasuk twice. Ana Hashem Hashiana, Ana Hashem Hashiana, Ana Hashem Hatzlichana, Ana Hashem Hatzlichana. We double it, Lishbait Yishbait. When the custom in the minig is to read it straight once, we read it straight. Levarech Achrav Yivarech, where the custom is to bench Hallel afterwards, to say Hallelujah, Baruch Atah Hashem Melech Muhulo Batishbachais, the bench to Hashem who is lauded with praises. Right, one says it. Hakol Keminig Hamadina, everybody says it like his own minig. And we, of course, have the minig that we do say Hallelujah. That's exactly right. Amar Abaya, Lo Yishanu El Achra. They taught this only after Hallel. Al-Lafana mitzvah levarech. But before Hallel, of course, it's a mitzvah to say the bracha l'krayetz Hallel. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel called mitzvahs mevarech aleim oiver la'asiyasim. Because of all commandments, one is mechuyev, obligated to make a blessing before you do the commandment. So when we put on the tefillin, we make lahaniach tefillin, to put on tefillin, and then we tighten the tefillin. Okay, before this is always we make the bracha on the tilas lulav, then we turn over the esrog and shake the lulav. Amar Abaya, lo shon. Oh, we just did Amar Abaya. Sorry. My masber the high oiva lishna dak dumihu. How do I know the word oiva means proceeding? That means to precede the doing of the mitzvah. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak diksiv vayoretz Achimatz derech hakika vayaveretz hakushi. Achimatz ran by the plains and went before Vayavra the Kushi. He went before the shooting. Yoav sent to the Kushi to inform David HaMelech of Avshalom's death. Achimatz wished to be the one to notify him, so that he ran. He set out before, and he caught up with him. I mean, he set out after the Kushi, and he caught up with him, went before him, he passed it. That Yaakov went before his wife and children by when he met up with Esau. And the king passed before them with Hashem at their head. Okay, and this is when the Shiach will come, that Hashem's presence will precede all of it. Tanya, Rebbe Kaifel said, but the one Rebbe HaKadosh would repeat the pasuk on Hashem Hashiach, on Hashem Hatzlichana, Be'elazim Parada Moisiv by Devar would add verses. My Moisiv, Amar Abaya Moisiv L'chvol mi Oitcha Lamata. He would add from Oitcha Lamata downwards, and that's what we do today. We go Oitcha Ki Ani Shani Ba'Tihili Shua, Oitcha Ki Ani Shani Ba'Tihili Shua. Even Moasa Abayna Moisiv L'Rashpina, Even Moasa Abayna Moisiv L'Rashpina, Me'ez Hashem Moisiv Zoitz, in a plus Be'enenu, Me'ez Hashem Moisiv Zoitz, in a plus Be'enenu. Because we're doing like the Shita of Rabbi Elazar ben Perot. Dorish Rav Avira. Rav Avira said the following: Zin in Amalei Lishmei Rav Ami, and sometimes he said in the name of Rav Ami. Zin in Amalei Lishmei Rav Asi, and sometimes he said in the name of Rav Asi. My Dixib, why does it say by Yigdal Ayel and by Yigomal? But when Abraham Avinu and Sarah Avinu had Yitzchak, and said the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. Igoma. Also, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lasei Sugal Tzadikim. In the future, the Holy One, blessed be His name, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make a feasting for the righteous. The Yoim should Yigmo Chazda Lizari Shel Yitzchak. On the day that He bestows kindness upon the children of Yitzchak. At the time after they eat and drink, they will give the kaisa bracha. The ones who should say, Rabbi Simon of Elevention, over a cup of wine. They would give it, of course, to Abraham Avinu to say Birchas Hamazon. And he would say, I cannot recite from it because Yishmael came from me. They'll then pass it on to Yitzchak. We're up to 119b2. Getting to the Mishnah. Torah Varech. You, Yitzchak, take up the cup and bench. Saying, Rabbi Simon Benchen, do Zimun, Amalahen, Eini Mevarech, Shiyotzi Meni Esav. I can't because Esav came from me. Amalai Yaakov, Torah Mevarech. Take the cup and recite Birchas Hamazon. Amalahem, Yaakov is going to say to them, I can't do it because I married two sisters in their lifetimes. Shall see the Torah in a life, which the Torah ultimately is going to come to forbid upon me. Moshe, please take the cup and you bench. I was not going to enter into the land of Eretz Yisrael. Not in my life, nor in my death. Yeshua says Yeshua. One second. Amalahem. One second. I lost the place. Here we go. Amalei Yaakov. Torah Mevarech Amalahem. Ein Mevarech. Shenasasi Shtei Achleis B'Chayein. I cannot recite the blessing for I married two sisters in the lifetime. Why should I see the Torah? Let's see her alive. Because the Torah is going to answer it for me. Because I have not the privilege of entering Eretz Yisrael. Yeshua, you take it. I was not zeichet to have a son, I only had daughters. Let me double check that. So instead, I can't say, Boine Yerushalayim. I don't have a son to help build Yerushalayim. The Ksiv Yeshua ben Nun, Yeshua ben Nun, Nun benoi, Yeshua benoi. Nun was his son, Yeshua was his son. Amalei LeDavid, Torah Mevarech, you take and you make the Mevarech. Amalahen, Ani Mevarech, I, David, will bench. V'li Noel Mevarech, and it's fitting for me to bench because I was on the Uvenei Yerushalayim Yirakodesh b'Meir v'Yameinu. Shenema, Kois Yeshua is Esau, Ubishem Hashem Ekra. I shall rise a cup of salivations, and the name of Hashem I shall invoke. And this is the reason, because of Kois Yeshua is Esau, that we overflow the cup. We overflow the cup of Kiddush. We overflow the cups of where we're making a bracha on it, because Kois Yeshua is Esau. A cup of salivation I shall raise, and it should be overflowing with salivation. In the name of Hashem, I shall invoke. Everybody have a wonderful Shabbos. It's a quasi Shabbos Hagadol, so everybody enjoy it. We will start a Mitzvah Sunday morning on 119b2 at the Mishnah Ein Maptirin Achar Pesach Api Koyman. Thank you very much. Kol Tov.